Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 20.
You start to lift the voices that have carried so much weight for so long and altered your behaviors, that doubt, as you put it. And as those lift, possibilities open up, you start exploring, what you truly love. And I think you're never going to have that fulfillment in life until you find a relationship to yourself, right, that you fall in love with.
Well, back on the show, really excited to have Steve Flansbaum back on the show. And he's a licensed mental health counselor and NASM certified personal trainer and has earned his master's in professional counseling and theory. Welcome back to the show.
It's good to be back. Thank you for having me again. Yeah.
I'm holding your business card.
Yes.
And I really like it. There's an image, a silhouette of a man, and inside
That's
his
me,
brain.
Actually.
Oh, okay.
It's a silhouette of me.
I can see that.
Yeah, there you go.
And then inside your brain, you've got a muscular arm, flexing.
Yep.
And that's cool because it's like, I'm working my emotions and my body, and
yep, starting from the inside out.
I like that. It makes you think.
Yep.
Now your card says share your story.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
I'm trying to think more complicated than the obvious of just sharing your story, but I've just found so much healing in sharing my own story. It's amazing what it's done for me in my life, and I think we're all looking for a platform to have our voice, share our story, to be heard, and I'm trying to provide a space for people to have that platform, where they can come in, they can share what they believe about who they are, where they've been, where they're going, and I think there's just so much that can be done just in that gesture, just to be given the space. It's a gift that's been given to me, and a gift I'm trying to pass on. To truly listen to somebody is an amazing thing, and to get out of their way completely and just let them express without any form of judgment is a rare thing. Yeah, and that's what I want to give to people.
I find you to be very empathetic.
Thank you.
You're very comfortable to be with.
Thank you.
And it probably makes you a really good counselor.
Well, there's a lot of people that have lived through stuff. There's a lot of people that get educated. I think, a great benefit for me is that not only have I, lived through quite a bit of struggle in my life, but I also went and got educated, to create the language around it. So I can relate so well, and I actually, have a lot of my own body image issues and everything. I'm never really struggled with like weight loss, but I actually grew up the opposite. I grew up very skinny. I'm the same build I am now, 5'9" in my senior year, at about 180 pounds sitting here, and in my senior year I was 120, so 60 pounds lighter, and I'm not a big guy right now, and I was always the little guy. Kind of the run. I mean, I was athletic, but it just seemed like, through high school people grew and I didn't. And, I kind of had, this isn't an official term, but I guess you'd say kind of a little man complex, where I felt less than. And I got into bodybuilding and I actually put on 100 pounds of basically muscle. And it was really dysfunctional and unhealthy. I just had a lot of body dysmorphia and I saw this video of myself, this home video. This was after I'd been sober a couple years, and I saw this video of me a couple years before rehab, and I was 210 pounds, and I'm wearing the same t-shirt as I'm wearing watching the video, just busting out of it. My face is huge. I mean, this t-shirt is wearing me, so to speak. I mean, I'm just bursting out of it, and I'm looking at it thinking how ridiculous I look. I mean, I just looked ridiculous. My arms are like 22 inches big, and I just remember being that person at the time and looking in the mirror thinking I wasn't big enough, right? And so I had a lot of weird relationships with food and just eating constantly, and it was all just kind of built off this insecurity and fear. So I can't exactly relate to what it's like to be overweight, but I can definitely relate to all the shame associated with it. I can relate to the body dysmorphia. I mean, I kind of did the opposite thing, right? But anyway, so weight loss has been a really good niche for me. It's a population I can relate to and connect with, and so I've built a lot of great relationships with my clients.
I have a friend who was 90 pounds, and she was sharing with me her emotional frustrations with her body, and it was so amazing that I was like, you could just take the word like fat and replace it with skinny, and it was my exact same frustrations with my body.
Right. Yeah.
She wanted to be more like me, and I wanted to be more like her, and both were dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it was amazing to look at someone and go, God, I know you're so skinny, you're so beautiful. But that's not, that wasn't healthy either. That was extreme for her. And now I think she's about 120, and for her height, perfect weight. But she went through a counseling and a lot of healing, and actually came out to her whole community as a bulimic, and which I never knew for years.
Yeah.
And so, but her body dysmorphia.
Dysmorphia. Dysphoria might work too. I know dysmorphia works.
Well, explain for those who don't know what these
body
these
dysmorphia
terms.
is having a skewed perception of your body. Okay. Usually in a negative way, although sometimes it can be grandiose. But it's basically you're incongruent. You know what incongruent? Well, I should probably explain that too. Incongruent is having an unparalleled perception with yourself as other people do.
Right.
Right.
Incongruency, like feeling conflicted inside.
Yeah, I mean, how people view you, how you view yourself, and how you think people view you. And to be congruent, is very healthy, and to be incongruent is where a lot of dysfunction happens. And so with body, and now you're just applying that basically to body image, how you view yourself. So I was incredibly body dysmorphic. They had this test where you would pick out these sketches of people based on like what you thought women liked. There's this book called The Adonis Complex, which is fantastic because men have a lot of eating disorder and body image issues, but it's very covert because of all the shame, because it's considered a woman's problem. But they had you pick a sketch of a body that you thought women liked, a sketch of a body that you thought you were, and then a sketch of a body that you wanted to be. And the one I wanted to be was what I was. The one I thought I was off by about 50 pounds, and the one I thought women liked was way off too. The studies at least showed that the average woman wanted basically like an athletic build, but they didn't want like a big, like bodybuilding type. They just wanted basically a normal person that looked like they were active, right? But anyway, so body dysmorphia is just being incongruent in regards to your perception of yourself, how people view it, and how you think people view it. Yeah.
I think we could apply that to a lot of areas of life. I'm thinking like financially.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because we're all living from 10 credit cards, and it's I've heard this saying the other day, and it cracked me up. Ghetto rich. It's like you get a raise, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm going to get a new car. I'm going to get a house, and it's hilarious. It's like we're not living within our means.
No, we're not. But I mean, it's kind of hard to, I guess, these days because the means aren't there. So a lot of people, are just finding it very difficult to.
Well, we're tempted.
Yeah.
We're tempted with, fast food and, looking at any commercial. Ooh, a drug that's going to solve my problems.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants the pill. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find a lot of clients, they come in and they want to throw money at this thing, but they don't want to do anything about it. It turns off. There's a difference between actually feeling good and shutting up the voice in your head that makes you feel bad. And a lot of people do things to shut that voice up, but it doesn't mean that they're actually feeling better. It just like a drug kind of masks that negative dysfunction.
Right. And
Yeah.
is that why you do free consultations?
I just want people to get a chance to interact with me. That's the biggest thing. Ultimately, people are buying me, right? They're either gonna connect or they're not. I don't take it personally either way. Every trainer or therapist has their own philosophies. And so I have no problem spending an hour or two with somebody I want to get to know them anyway. I want to see how I interact because, there's been a couple people that come in and I'm thinking like, this isn't going to work, and it's nothing personal. Again, it's just ethically speaking, I want to make sure this person, and a lot of that has to do, because I do programs too. So it's one thing to go in and see a counselor and spend $100 and not be committed to anything. But I'm looking for committed people. I'm running like programs that are set up. I modeled my program based off the programs that drug treatment centers use.
I love that.
Because that's, how I came up in the ranks. And really, it's no different. It's all behavioral change. Yeah, so.
Well, and those programs have a great success rate versus not doing them.
Yeah, well, oh yeah, absolutely. And the longer you're in them, the higher the odds, period. I mean, it amazes me. I spent almost 5 months and I remember going to it because 90 days is what they said. And I thought that was a lifetime. I mean, I was like, there's no way in hell. And I was still holding on to my old life, thinking like, I got to get back to my job and my this and my that. And I never went back. But in Washington, a lot of the centers, there's, what is it, Milam? Milam is a big chain of recovery treatment centers, and it's a 28-day process. And to me, I can't even imagine being successful. I mean, that's right when, drug addiction is a little different than weight loss, obviously, in some ways, but that's right when the fog clears. Well, even chemically speaking, I mean, they're showing sugar to have the same effect on the brain as heroin and cocaine, which are incredibly hard substances. But 28 days, I mean, that's just getting physically clean.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine going out and being successful because you there's so much to learn and work on. And it takes some time, just to kind of go through the spin cycle and get that stuff out. Yeah.
So you do one-on-one, both
individual and group.
Individually and group. Okay, great. And you can also work on Skype, so you can take anyone.
Yep.
You spend a little bit of time getting to know them and making sure ethically that you feel that you would get them, that they're ready to work with you. They're ready to take some action.
Absolutely.
So they are interviewing you, you're interviewing them.
Yeah.
And then you do these programs, these workshops. And you also work at Fairfax?
I do. Fairfax is a psychiatric hospital. It's really the biggest psychiatric hospital in the area. It's private. And so I am part of their mobile crisis team. I am called a PAT evaluator. So what I do is when I am working a shift, I'll be on call, and it's all crisis. So obviously, things happen when they happen, and then I get a call and they'll ask me to come in either to the hospital. Sometimes people, make an appointment and actually come in because they have, a family member or whatever. But a lot of the time it's at emergency rooms. So we work with a regular hospital, an emergency room, and they'll ask us to come in and do a psychiatric evaluation. So I come in, I do that, do my diagnosis, and then I help them take the first step, whether that's to come to Fairfax or to go home or to go to a crisis triage or to get the DMHP involved or whatever else. So I help them take their first step.
Do you get to follow up with them and see how they're doing along the way?
Not usually. That's one thing I don't enjoy about it. A lot of times in these assessments, I'll build a rapport and we'll really connect. And then, they'll even, there's a lot of opportunity there for people to want to work with you, right? Because they're like, oh, I like how you think. And I can't do that there ethically. I can't take on a client from the hospital. It's something I have to keep separate from my business, unfortunately. So I don't provide any contact information outside of the hospital's number. But sometimes, like just recently, I was doing group therapy for the detox ward. And so some of the people I would do an assessment with, I'd see back there and be doing group with. Yeah, but I don't get a ton of interaction with them past the assessment.
Right. Well, so you have an incredible amount of experience.
Yeah, I've been involved in a lot of different areas, yeah.
I love that. And so there's several things that you specialize in: behavioral psychology, addiction, exercise science, nutrition in regards to behavioral patterns, which we discussed to a certain extent last time you were on the show. Mental disorder, such as depression, anxiety, addiction, eating disorders, body image and body dysmorphia.
Yes.
Which we discussed previously. changing bad habits and ideas around willpower, meditation and mindfulness, and spirituality and philosophy. I really want to touch on, this is just, jumping out at me. I really want to touch on willpower,
Yeah.
changing bad habits, and this whole idea of willpower. And we were discussing last time how we beat ourselves up and really, get so down on ourselves. Like you said, if you were to look at you as though you were two people, like you and your relationship with you, it would be an abusive relationship.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I think you just described everyone, which is just so sad that we don't nurture ourselves. The other day, I was with a 21-year-old, and she's a brilliant person. She's actually about to go hike the Pacific Crest Trail for 5 months with her boyfriend. So she's preparing for that. And she said something like, "I'm so stupid," or she said something like that. I said, "Stop. Listen to your language. Listen to what you're saying about yourself."
Yeah.
And she was just talking so negatively about herself. And I said, your unconscious mind hears everything you say about yourself, and you're reinforcing it. And I said, if you imagine that your unconscious mind is this little child, she said something negative like, "Stupid kid." And I'm like, no, your unconscious mind is like this 5-year-old that loves you, this like little girl that looks up to you and loves you. And if you go, "Oh, I'm so stupid," then your unconscious mind, this little 5-year-old, looks up and goes, "Oh, I am? I guess I am."
Right. Yeah.
And so we're just constantly beating on ourselves. And when I gave her this image, because she loves kids, when I gave her this image that deep down inside, she's like, there's this like 5-year-old girl listening to everything she says and taking it on, then she has immediately changed her language since.
Sure.
Because now she's realizing that she needs to nurture herself instead of beat herself up. And she's now seeing how much she was getting down on herself.
Sure.
And we all do. So there's this idea of willpower, which anytime I think of willpower, I think of just like plowing through and pushing out beyond the pain, like, suck it up, walk it off, and then beating myself up when I don't have enough of it. So what's this concept of willpower that you help people with?
Well, I think there's a balance. You just talked about sucking it up, and there's opportunities for expansion, right? To expand your limits. I think the Superman movie, right? It's Jor-El, Superman's dad, telling him the only way to know your limits is, to see how far you can go. There's also a lot of opportunity to re-traumatize yourself. And I know last time we were talking about, there seems to be this automatic response in us to purge ahead, to blast through, and rather than listening to what's going on underneath. And I think a lot of times, rather than expand, we actually shrink because we're putting ourselves in situations that we don't want to be in. And we don't feel like we're ever going to, and that adds to the pressure, because we know whenever we're feeling like that, we're going to force ourselves to be, to push ourselves in further, and that kind of breaks the relationship between us and ourselves, and then we don't really trust ourselves, and then we don't trust people around us, and so on and so forth. And I think willpower is an interesting topic. Choice is an interesting topic. I mean, choice is not as black and white as it seems. I mean, there was a period before I went to rehab where I knew if I went to the bar, I'd be spending a few $100. I'd be blacked out, and I'd probably barely make it home through the window I'd climb through at night because no one would let me have my keys. I just knew it was going to happen because I'd seen it too many times. I mean, I guess it didn't have to, but I didn't believe that, right? And ultimately, what you believe is going to be your reality. And so it became a decision of, am I going to go down there or not? Because I know what will happen if I go down there. And so there's always a power, there's always a choice, but it's not everywhere. And as we exercise choice where we have it, it expands, right? You might not have a choice, to go through a drive-through without, doing whatever it is you do. I mean, it's just, we have to have, again, that humility of just understanding, like, hey, is there really any physical evidence to support the idea that you have any power in this situation? And if not, there's nothing wrong with that. But let's stop being, let's face facts here.
Right.
Like, there's nothing to indicate that something different is going to happen. That's that insanity, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. When I go to the grocery store, I only go to PCC, which is our local co-op. They amazing grocery store that has so many, because the members itself make up the rules. So no nitrates or nitrites. There's so many added chemicals that aren't allowed in the store.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different dyes that aren't allowed. Like I know I could pick any deli meat and there's not going to be any crap in it, but even though I'm still a label reader. But I shop the perimeter. I know if I'm going down that aisle, there's probably 10 things I want to put in my cart, and I have a rule: I don't bring junk into my house.
Yeah.
If I don't have junk food in my house, then when it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm like, just having a craving, I don't have anything to eat that's bad. I'm going to go make a protein shake or eat some seaweed snacks or whatever, but I'm not going to have the bin of ice cream. I just know, don't go down that aisle. So it's like you're saying, like, back up to find where you have the most willpower in the choice before you, like, don't go down the drive-through or don't go down that aisle in the grocery store.
Yeah, it's limited.
Right.
It's and you deserve the respect of your own support, right? I mean, we again, going back to that analogy, that abusive relationship, we don't even support ourselves in a lot of instances. I mean, we put ourselves in situations we don't want to be near and tell ourselves to deal with it, right? With no tools, with no help, with nothing. And so the idea, like I said, of willpower, and the idea of, especially around weight loss, is just, it's just ignorant. I mean, the bottom line is that these chemicals, sugar, processed foods, a lot of the things in there have the same effect on the brain as cocaine and heroin and nicotine. These are highly addictive substances. This is powerful stuff, right? You don't have to feel bad because it got you. I mean, this is very powerful stuff that alters your biology. So, the fact that you don't have the willpower over your behaviors is nothing to be ashamed of.
So then what? What do you do then?
Well, I think just having that mind frame really opens you up to a lot of options. Hopefully it breaks down some of the shame that we carry, right? And in terms of what we believe about ourselves and what we're doing. And, if we really want things to be different, then we start altering our environment and the things that are going to ensure our success. I was never one of those drug addicts that, like, had a hard time embracing it. Like, I always knew I had a problem. I pretty much knew it from day one. In fact, I thought there was something wrong with me before I started using drugs and alcohol. This was a belief that was ingrained with me. But, I was just always ashamed of it, and so that's what really blocked me from any kind of healing or success, is I was ashamed of that. And I think the more ashamed we are of it, the less opportunity we have to make things really easy. Things can be so easy. I mean, things are really, I don't know about easy. I mean, it's difficult to walk through that, but this thing can be a lot easier if we would allow it to be, but our own pride and reservations and our fear, of what people think and all this. I mean, that's probably the number one fear. I don't hear about death. People that say the number one fear is public speaking, but like in counseling, all I hear about is the judgment of others. I mean, that's the fear. And when you really start to look at that, it's like, not everybody's going to like you no matter what. I mean, sometimes you walk down the street, you see somebody, you want to punch them in the face, you don't even know them. I mean, it's just like, you don't know why. It's just that person drives you nuts. And so for us to, like, try to have everybody like us, I mean, you've already lost that game, right? And so if we could just expand on that, but that seems to drive so much behavior of ours,
Where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's like a primal thing, like we need to fit into the tribe to survive? Like, do you think it's,
Yeah, I think it's a primal thing. Yeah. I mean, we're human. We're not animals. I mean, ultimately it's a survival thing, because I would assume if we go back far enough, I mean, without others, we're left in the cold to die, right? But more than that, you go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And at the base is food and shelter, because we are animals. But we're more than that. Like, we need things to feel fulfilled, to make life worth it, support, love. Without other people, we don't get those things. We never feel love or support. If nobody were to see you lose all this weight, I mean, I don't know how much more you would enjoy it, right? It's kind of like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody sees it.
Well, especially with social media.
Yeah.
So, how old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you remember the 80s and the 90s. We didn't
Not
have
the 80s as much, but I had a
social
pager
media.
in my senior year.
Okay.
That's when like the Nokia cell phones with the
Yes.
Snake game started. Like I was one of the last guys to get that.
Yes. All right. So you remember the era of there was no texting.
Yep.
There was no Facebook.
We used pager code.
Yes.
Yes,
right.
143
411,
823.
911.
Exactly.
Totally. I had a pager in high school. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely. Felt like I was in.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Now I was like, I'm like a doctor.
Yeah.
Doctors have pagers.
I love getting that 823 143, cheap thrills, the teenage lifestyle.
Yeah, right. And so now with social media, I mean, you make any little accomplishment, you want to post it, and you want those likes, and then you go to your page and you see how many people clicked the heart in Instagram, and
Yep.
how many of my friends liked it, and if you don't get a lot of likes, it's like, damn.
Yeah, it kind of sucks. I mean, why put something up there if you weren't hoping that people would like it, right?
Right.
You
So it's
wouldn't
like,
put it up there just because most people wouldn't do that, I would think.
right.
Yeah.
But like you said, you go to make some accomplishment, lose the weight, and we want people we're doing it thinking the whole time, oh wow, people are really gonna be proud of me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be liked and to have attention I think that's great. Why not? I mean, why hide that? I don't know what the draw is. Like, people are like, oh, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't want to be the guy who doesn't care what people think. Like, I'm nothing without other people. And there's some people in this world I care deeply of what they think. There's some people I could care less. I mean, they could say whatever they want and I'd probably laugh. But ultimately, there's some level of wanting others to partake. I mean, I do this music thing on the side. I want people to see it. I'm not like after fame, but ultimately, if nobody's into it, there's not going to be, it's never going to expand and grow. Like, I'm still able to go do it, and I would still do it because I love it, but my dream is that it'll expand and grow, and I can't do that without general interest, right?
All right, well, let's get our listeners to go listen to you. How will they listen to you?
Well, they can go to my website, www.spgray, Gray's with an E.com. My stage name is Stephen Patrick Gray, Stephen with a PH. I do R&B, and I've fallen in love with it. I don't come from music. This is something I've just found in the last couple years. And now I'm on iTunes and Spotify. I just finished my first album.
I've been lost, baby. I've been down. Sold my soul, watched it fall through the ground. Can you get up for one more round? Yeah, baby. All I know is what I know is what holds me bound.
And so they can download it. Thank you. They can buy a hard CD off my website. I have a separate website, obviously. I'm carrying these dual identities. That's like, that's
Right. Well, you
Batman
gotta-
to Bruce Wayne kind of stuff.
You gotta live your passion.
Oh, I love it. It's I've always loved music. It's something I've discovered within myself through my own recovery, and it's really changed my life.
Picking my next move, baby. Thinking what will I do, maybe. Can you help me with a clue? I've been lost. Picking my next move, baby. Thinking what will I do, baby. Can you help me with a clue? I've been lost, oh so lost. So sick of playing fool. can't see myself. And it's plain to see that I'm left with no one else. All these thoughts in me, yeah, they circle by themselves. I bring my head down from reality.
Well, I discovered podcasting, and
Yeah.
I have found my calling.
Yeah.
Not to toot my own horn, but it's so funny when I moved to the States, and I had this job. It was like, it was like my first real mature job, in my opinion. I was a sales manager for an international training company, and with my very first paycheck, I bought a gaming mouse because I broke the mouse that came on my Dell computer trying to play World of Warcraft, and I bought my first iPod,
Yeah.
which, like, the iPod Classic, had 80 gigabytes.
Yeah.
And I remember laughing holding this, like, it seemed like it was like a half a pound. It was like really heavy device.
Yeah, I had the video one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the video one. And so maybe it wasn't the Classic, but it was the big honkin' one, right? And I thought it was so funny that it was the exact same amount of storage on my iPod that I had in my entire computer. It was 80 gigabytes at the
Wow.
time. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really funny. But ever since then, I've been listening to podcasts, and I thought it'd be so cool to be a podcaster. And it just, I guess I was listening to all those voices in my head go, you can't do it. You don't have enough time. What would you talk about? Who would listen?
Yeah.
And through my journey of, emotional discovery, emotional maturity, I stopped listening to the doubt and started listening to all the little I can voices. And that's why we're here. So I'm really glad you discovered your passion, because you just light up when you start talking about music.
Oh man, I'm so in love with it, and it came out of nowhere. Like I said, it was part of, I think, recovery. Whether it's for anything, drug addiction, anything, it's all about self-actualization, and you start to lift the voices that have carried so much weight for so long and altered your behaviors, that doubt, as you put it. And as those lift, possibilities open up, you start exploring, what you truly love. And I think you're never going to have that fulfillment in life until you find a relationship to yourself, right, that you fall in love with. And you need some way to constructively express that. And so you have your podcast. For me, it's been music, and my business. I mean, it's funny, I talk with, people, my friends, and I would never give up. I would never choose between one and the other. Like, I think ultimately my passion is writing and expression, and I can do that through my business, and I can do that through music. And so I don't think I'd ever have to really choose, but I think we're all looking for a way to really have a loving relationship with ourselves, and we have to have something objective to build that relationship. We need a way to express it, right?
You are so well spoken. I've really actually been admiring how you describe things, and so to know that you write your own music.
I do. I write my own music, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward to hearing more of your lyrics. Given that you have this very unique background, well, everyone has a unique background, but
Sure.
Given that you have the background of really understanding the unconscious and our emotions and our, so much of our archetypes, and then be able to go and write music for that, do you find that your professional background has influenced how you write?
I don't know about that. I would say all the work I've done has really influenced it. I mean, my understanding of myself and my feelings, and more than that, just being okay with them, really helps me be honest and authentic through music. We listen to so much crap on the radio talking about nothing. I mean, the concepts.
Yeah.
It's so it's not for me. I like listening to stuff with a little substance, and the stuff I write, can be very raw. There's a couple songs on there that are incredibly personal and raw, and but there's no feeling like somebody, listening. It's not just about music. It's just, sharing something that is you and having somebody be into that. I mean, I've never experienced a feeling like that so satisfying as somebody like listening to a song and just and really appreciating it. I mean, because it's you,
Yeah.
you're sharing you, and it's vulnerable enough to sing in front of people another song that you're doing a cover for, let alone your own stuff, and like
Right.
owning that, like I wrote this and I'm sharing about myself. So with the risk comes the reward. So I guess the more vulnerable you want to be, the better, and I think there's a difference between being authentic and like trying to be authentic, because there's some artists that, like I'll use Macklemore's, I'm not from here. I know everybody loves Macklemore, so I'm probably going to get, thrown off the stage right now for bringing it up. I actually met him at a radio. I got to take a picture with him just recently.
Cool.
And he's an amazing artist, but there's a couple things, like he just wrote this song called White Privilege, and bringing up a very controversial topic, but sometimes it feels like we're just bringing stuff up because, just to stir the pot, rather than coming from a place of like, true personal feelings. But anyway,
It's like the Jerry Springer show.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like let's see this car wreck.
Yeah.
But, anyway,
Let's pull the string, because we know society is like wired for exploding if you pull that string. So you just mention one thing and then watch them go.
chaos.
Yeah.
Well, you can't. There's no pleasure without chaos. Like there's not going to be a reward with drugs, with food, none of this stuff. You don't get the payoff unless the chaos is there at the base of it. Like a cigarette, for instance. The better the reward, I mean, the higher the stress. Like the cigarette is at its best when you are like stressed out, right? And hurting and going through something. And so that's what people don't really understand in their own life, is that there's a reason why they have these negative habits and why they hold on to them. And because they got to hold on to that to get all the payoff of the pleasure-inducing activity.
That makes so much sense. My ex-boss, who's an NLP, very famous NLP master trainer, and NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It's all about finding behaviors or finding results that you don't like in your life and changing the behaviors. And she's one of the few master trainers in the world, and she's a smoker.
Oh, okay.
And so she was really beating herself up for, first of all, being a smoker, until she realized why she was doing it. She pushes herself, very high stress. Comes from a communist Romania, and the only way she was able to escape Romania was that she was a concert violinist since the age of 3. So she would, they're just intense, 12-hour day practicing the violin. And she escaped Romania into Germany and then into Australia, and then was hired a month later. She's living out off a suitcase, homeless, right? A refugee. A month later, hired by the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, very top level performer. And she figured out the reason why she was a smoker is the only time she allowed herself to have a break in the day was for the cigarette. And so she would stop work and get up and go stand on the porch and have 5 minutes to herself.
Yeah.
And that was because every time she quit smoking, she'd work 15-hour days and just beat herself into the ground.
Yep.
And so the reward was that she was giving herself a break. And so it's funny how we, like you said, the higher the stress, the more rewarding a cigarette is.
Yep. Bigger payoff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's all about the relationship to the behavior. That's one thing my original therapist, when I got into rehab, and I dealt with a lot. We didn't focus on drugs. We focused on our relationship to it. And it's all about what that behavior means and what it represents and how you engage with it. And the more you can work on that, because a lot of times we tend to kind of ostracize or crucify the behavior, right? And so we never really do the work, which is really about us and how we interacted with it. And so what happens is we crucify this thing but then it shows up in another way because we didn't really do the work to stop engaging with things that way. You know, there's nothing wrong with anything. It's just all about how we interact with it. And there's nothing even wrong with that. It's just, you know, sometimes, you know, it takes us away from where we want to be. Yeah.
So for people who aren't where they want to be, they're listening to this, and most people listening to this want optimal health. They've achieved some level of health. They want to get to the next level of health, and maybe they're stuck. What's some way that they can, you know, set goals or start to see the root cause of the behavior, or start to understand their own behavior? Like, what's some tools? Like, is journaling something you recommend, or?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of different things that can be done. I think the biggest thing is to paint a big picture, to take a step back and really get all the information, because usually where we're obsessing the problem isn't really the problem. And so it's probably not going to be where you obsess about or where you think about it constantly. And so if you can take a step back and really collect all the facts, like I said, a habit is an automatic response to our environment. Usually the habit is creating the result that we don't like either we got habits around money, and so we don't like the way our bank account looks, or we have habits around food and exercise, we don't like how our body looks. And so, you know, once we understand that that's just automatically responding to what we've set up, then we can start to take a look at, you know, our environment, and then we can cut it back one more layer and look at the beliefs we have about it that make us hold on to that environment. And so that would be the first thing that I would do, is just get some space from it. You know, paint that big picture, take that step back, and then you can really start to work this thing at a couple deep levels that they're going to have a major impact, rather than just trying to, like, it's like playing whack-a-mole, right? It's like, oh, this is wrong, I don't want to be doing this, and you plug it, and then it pops up in two different places. So you have to deal with it, and it's going to have a bigger impact on everything. So you got to really take that step back.
I love that you said that about whack-a-mole, because I'm just remembering, you know, what MDs do when you go into the office. I've got heartburn. All right, here's a medication.
Yep.
Whack-a-mole shows up in two other places.
Yep.
Because the root problem isn't heartburn. You know, you've got your behaviors, you've got your choices you're making around food.
Result.
Yeah, exactly. And they're playing whack-a-mole with results, not with the root cause. With, you know, the nutrition, what is your body lacking? Where's your body out of balance? And if you try to plug that up with drugs, it is whack-a-mole, and then more symptoms, more side effects and symptoms will come as a result. So it's so funny how we can see this pattern in our body physically, and we see the exact same thing happen, mirrored emotionally, mentally, you know, in other parts of ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it all starts with us. And it's all, again, that relationship. It's interesting, like, when you ask somebody how we associate what is us and what is not us, right? So when I look at my arm, I'll say, this is my arm, and I'll point to it. So I've separated my arm from who I am, whatever I am, right? Whatever it is that's talking, I'm saying this is my arm and this is my hair. But when you ask people about their weight, you know, they'll say, I am overweight, I am fat. You know, it's a state of identity. And so, and that can be applied to all these things in our life, whether it's their relationships or their career or whatever else. It's interesting to start looking at how I make up my identity. And then you can start really exploring why you own some things and why you don't own other things, right? And you can really start to change that relationship. Because most people don't consciously store fat in their body, right? I mean, nobody wants to do that, and most people don't consciously give themselves heartburn. I mean, these are just things that are happening as a result. We may have some impact on it, but we're not, like, ultimately responsible for these things happening. These aren't things that we sought out, right? I mean, they're just happening, and we don't like it, and we can do something about it without having to feel badly about it.
Awesome. Well, you have so much to provide, and I'm really excited for your book.
Thank you.
It's going to be coming out in a few months. So
yeah, I should be done with it in a few months, and then get it edited, and I'll probably have to start by self-publishing it, And then my hope is, you know, I just think it's a message that's really valuable. I think it's really important. And my hope is that, you know, with enough exposure, it'll get to the masses and really start changing the thinking on this from a holistic standpoint. So,
well, I know our listeners will help you with that. So when your book is coming out on Amazon, when you self-publish, we'll have you back on the show, and we'll ask all the listeners to go check it out and give you good reviews. And
they can follow me on Facebook too if they
Great.
want to stay up to date. You know, I put my blog through Facebook and things like that. So
yeah, so and they can find that on your website.
I think there's a link. I don't know if
I
there
will
is.
put a link
Yeah,
to
that'd be
your
great.
fan page on the show notes of
Excellent.
this
Thank you.
podcast. So you can find that at learntohealth.com/podcast. And yeah, awesome. Well, so good to have you on the show again. I mean, it's just really, I feel like more at peace now. I mean, I've forgiven myself. I am now trusting myself again. You know, hey, you had mentioned that there were a few books that you recommend before we part ways. Do you want to share those books?
Yeah, some books that have really had a big impact on me is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That ultimately kind of opened my eyes to this way of thinking. You know, this big picture, underlying cause kind of thinking. I love the book A Path with Heart by Jack Kornfield. These are more books about like spirituality and philosophy, but I think ultimately that's really important in terms of influencing the brain and, you know, and kind of lifting the veil. The best exercise book I've ever read is Core Performance by Mark Verstegen. So those are 3 titles I'd throw out there to the people.
And with the exercise book, what's that about? I mean,
It's what I love about it is it's exercise science, which can be a very complicated topic. You know, put in layman's terms, it's very easy to understand. One of the big issues that we didn't even talk about, I think, is people's approach to physical exercise. It's really destructive. There is a science to it, especially for people that have weight to lose, who are even in a more vulnerable position with their body and the postural structure and their joints and everything. It's really important that exercise is done right, because you're more vulnerable and a higher liability, you know, as you're losing the weight. So,
and then that is something that a lot of people do. You look at, you look at The Biggest Loser TV show, or like those, you know, those other transformational shows. They've got those shows where you see someone go from 400 pounds down to 120 in one episode.
yeah.
And I think that does people a disservice, because then you have this like, oh, look how easy it is. I saw it in 1 hour. Well, they beat themselves up for a year. And then you see them 2 years later, you know, and they haven't kept the result. But when you jump into the gym after being completely not physically active, and you're like, okay, we're going to do it this time. We're going to be just like The Biggest Loser. And then within 2 workouts, you've sprained an ankle, or you've, you know, injured your knee or your back or your neck. And then you beat yourself up because you're not perfect, just like these TV shows. And it's just the vicious cycle goes over and over because you haven't healed the beliefs about yourself.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you took on too much too quick. There's a big reason of why people go into January and by mid-February are gone. I mean, most people are at like a nutritional deficit. They're not getting in enough nutrients. And then you go in and you up the output level, you decrease the input level, you kick the crap out of each other for 6 weeks, and they wonder why they're at home like binge eating and resting and, you know, and sleeping it off. And but anyway, it's really important that you're meeting yourself where you're at, you know, exercising and eating in a way that makes sense for where you're at, not where you're trying to be. You're not a professional athlete, like you're already putting stress on your body by having some weight, you know, to carry. Like, that's hard on the joints and the organs. So, you know, let's make sense of what we're doing. Yeah.
And I love what you said, because Dr. Wallach, who's the very well-known naturopath for understanding how minerally deficient we are. He's a 75-year-old naturopath that still is very, very active, and he created Longevity, which is a line of supplements that I take. And he says that many of us are nutrient deficient, and we're overeating as a result of being so nutrient deficient that our body is starving for nutrients and trying to get those nutrients. And then when we exercise, or we're now putting more demand on our nutrient stores, and we're sweating out our trace minerals, and we're not replenishing it with the good food and the good nutrition. And so that's it. It's this vicious cycle.
Yeah,
so
it's backwards.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And most of the approaches involved in weight loss are, like I said, we talked about last time, with the scheduling being an issue, and then taking on a new commitment. It just, everything seems to be, all the solutions seem to be, backwards and just encouraging the problem. So we just need to take a step back, look at what we're doing, and make sense of it all.
I encourage you to go to Steve's website, and that is steveflansbaum.com for links to his website and his fan page, and to check out his music.
Oh, yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Go to the show notes of this podcast and click on all those links and check out Steve. And if you want to talk to him, you can Skype him.
Yep, I have my contact info on my website, so they're welcome to reach out. I'd love to meet some new people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve, and I really look forward to your book coming out. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
Nice to meet you. Any sweet to park yourself right here. Feels good to have your body near. I think I feel you. And it feels good. Tell me all those things, like your interests, secrets, fears, and dreams. I can't go on living so long. I can't go with the thought of you near. Girl, what you really thinking? Don't you wanna be with a man taking things so far? Fly, let's soar. I really wanna know your name, babe. The way you're looking at me is just the same, baby. I really wanna know your name, babe. Come and stop this thing. You'll be glad you came. Come a little bit closer, baby. Come a little bit closer, girl. And it feels right, baby. Come a little bit closer, baby. Come a little bit closer, girl. You make me wanna say so much more. The way you hold it down, I can't ignore. And I don't know why you make me wanna do these things to you. 'Cause I don't even know your name, but baby, maybe that's something we can change. I can't go on living so long. I can't go with the thought of you near. Girl, what you really thinking? Don't you wanna be with a man taking things so far? Fly, let's soar. I really wanna know your name, babe. The way you're looking at me is just the same, baby. I really wanna know your name, babe. Come and stop this thing. You'll be glad you came. You've been thinking you don't believe in love at first sight. You've been through this, but you can trust this love me tonight. I really wanna know your name, babe. I really wanna know you. The way you're looking at me is just the same. I really wanna know you. I really wanna know your name, babe. I really wanna know you. Come and stop this thing. You'll be glad you came. I really wanna know your name, babe. I really wanna know you. The way you're looking at me is just the same. I really wanna know you. I really wanna
How would you like to learn from top naturopathic physicians? Go to freedoctorcourse.com and sign up for the free course that'll email you videos with tips and tricks to achieving optimal health. That's freedoctorcourse.com, freedoctorcourse.com.